In 2014, two 12-year-old girls led their best friend into the woods. They told her they were going to play a game. They told her to lie down. Minutes later, she was attacked with a knife 19 times. She survived. What police heard afterward made no sense. The girls calmly explained why they did it. They said it wasn't personal. They said it wasn't anger. They said they were trying to prove something was real. The case happened in Waukesha, Wisconsin on May 31, 2014. The victim was Peyton Lutner. The attackers were her classmates and close friends, Morgan Geyser and Anissa Weier. All three were the same age. When officers questioned the girls, they didn't deny what they had done. They didn't try to escape responsibility. Instead, they described a plan that had taken months. A plan built around a character that did not exist in the real world. A character created on the internet. A character called SLENDERMAN. At first, investigators believed the explanation would collapse under scrutiny. Didn't, because as they examined the timeline, the planning, the conversations, and the beliefs, they realized this attack was not sudden. It was not impulsive, and it was not imagined. And once they understood how long it had been forming, the case became far more disturbing than anyone expected. Peyton Lutner met Morgan Geyser years before the attack. They were classmates, then friends, eventually best friends. Peyton later described herself as empathetic, optimistic, the type of child who didn't want anyone to feel alone. Morgan often sat by herself, so Peyton chose to sit with her. At first, Morgan appeared quiet and creative. She liked drawing. She liked stories. But as they grew older, something changed. Morgan became deeply fixated on SLENDERMAN, a fictional horror character created on online forums. A tall figure in a suit, no face. Stories claimed he lived in the woods and watched children. Peyton said the stories frightened her. She told Morgan she didn't like them. She even asked her mother if SLENDERMAN was real. Her mother told her it wasn't. Morgan did not accept that answer. Around the same time, Morgan became close with Anissa Weier. The two spent more time together, and Morgan's belief intensified. Peyton later said she felt uneasy around Anissa. She felt pushed aside. She noticed a change. Morgan talked about SLENDERMAN constantly. She said he was real. She said he communicated with her. She said he could harm her family if she didn't obey him. Peyton considered ending the friendship. She said she felt something was wrong, but she stayed. She didn't want Morgan to be alone, and Morgan guilted her into remaining friends. On May 30th, 2014, the girls attended Morgan's 12th birthday party. They went roller skating. They ate frozen yogurt. Then Peyton stayed overnight at Morgan's house. That night, Morgan and Anissa later told police they planned to attack Peyton while she slept. They decided not to. Instead, they waited. The next morning, the girls suggested going to a nearby park. Seemed normal. Parents allowed it. Once at the park, Anissa suggested playing hide and seek in the woods. Peyton didn't see it as dangerous. It was daytime. It was familiar. Inside the woods, Anissa told Peyton to lie down. She told her to cover herself with leaves and sticks. It was described as part of the game. Peyton trusted them. That was when Morgan attacked her with a kitchen knife. 19 times. Afterward, Morgan and Anissa left her there. They believed SLENDERMAN would now accept them as his proxies. They believed he would spare their families. Peyton was alone, injured, losing blood. She did not know why they left. She did not know if they would return. What she did know was that she had to move. Using trees to support herself, she stood, and she walked out of the woods. She collapsed near a road, where a bicyclist found her and called for help. Doctors later said one of the wounds missed a major artery by less than a millimeter. If the knife had gone slightly deeper, she would not have survived. Morgan and Anissa were arrested shortly afterward. During police interviews, they confessed almost immediately. They described planning the attack for months. They spoke calmly, and they insisted SLENDERMAN was real. That admission forced investigators to confront something far more complex than a crime. Peyton Lutner survived the attack, but recovery did not end with surgery. For years afterward, she struggled with fear. She slept beside her mother. Later, she kept broken scissors under her pillow for a sense of safety. In 2019, 5 years after the attack, Peyton spoke publicly for the first time in an interview with ABC News. She said she had come to accept her scars, that they were part of her, that she didn't think about them often anymore. She also said something that surprised many people. She said she would thank Morgan, not because she forgave her, but because the experience gave her direction. She said, "Without the whole situation, I wouldn't be who I am." Peyton said she does not want to see Morgan or Anissa again, but she also said she understands mental illness. Morgan Geyser was later diagnosed with early-onset schizophrenia. In 2018, she was found not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. She was committed to a mental health institution for up to 40 years. Anissa Weier was also found not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. She was committed for up to 25 years. She was later released under supervision. Both girls told investigators they believed SLENDERMAN was real. They believed he would kill their families if they didn't act. Peyton has publicly said she does not blame Morgan's parents. She said it was not their fault. She said mental illness played a central role. Today, Peyton lives quietly. She plans for the future. She avoids attention. The case is often described as a story about the dangers of the internet. But Peyton describes it differently, as a story about friendship, about ignoring fear, and about staying when your instincts tell you to leave. But the question remains, how many warning signs were visible before it was almost too late? The facts are known. The case is closed. But cases like this don't really end. Because what happened in Waukesha was not just a crime. It was a collision between belief, fear, and childhood trust. Investigators later said the most disturbing part wasn't the planning. It wasn't even how calmly the girls confessed. It was how normal everything looked before it happened. There were no threats, no history of violence, no obvious warning that something irreversible was coming. Just 3 children, a friendship, and an idea that slowly took control. Peyton Lutner has said she doesn't want to be defined by what happened in the woods. She doesn't want to relive it. She doesn't want attention. She wants a normal life. And in interviews, she has been clear about one thing. This story isn't about monsters in the forest. It's about what happens when fear goes unchallenged, when imagination turns into belief, and when loyalty keeps someone from walking away. Morgan Geyser believed something that wasn't real, but the consequences were. Anissa Weier went along with it, and later admitted how deep the plan had gone. And Peyton trusted the people who hurt her, because they were her friends. To this day, Peyton has said she understands mental illness. She has said she does not blame the parents. And she has said she does not live in fear anymore. But she has also said something else. That if you feel something is wrong, you need to leave. Even if it's uncomfortable. Even if you feel guilty. Even if you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. Because sometimes, staying is more dangerous than walking away. The internet didn't create this case, but it played a role. Ideas spread faster than understanding, and belief can grow quietly without anyone noticing. By the time someone realizes something is wrong, it may already be too late. The case of Peyton Lutner is not remembered because of a fictional character. It's remembered because of survival, and because of a question that still matters. How many warning signs do we miss before something unthinkable happens? If you follow real true crime cases where the truth is more unsettling than fiction, leave a like, subscribe to Ghost Synergy 13, and join the Synergy. We post true crime and horror stories daily. The court made its decision. The sentences were issued. But closure in cases like this is mostly an illusion. Because when people look back at what happened in Waukesha, Wisconsin in 2014, the question is no longer what happened. We know what happened. The real question is how it was allowed to happen at all. This wasn't a crime born out of rage. It wasn't a sudden argument. And it wasn't a moment that escalated out of control. It was planned. Slowly. quietly, over months, in classrooms, at sleepovers, during conversations that sounded harmless to anyone listening from the outside. That's what makes this case so disturbing. Everything looked normal. 3 girls the same age, friends, birthday parties, games in the park. Nothing about the setting suggested danger. And that's the part that stays with investigators. Not the violence itself, but how invisible the warning signs were until it was almost too late. Peyton Lutner survived. Doctors say she survived by millimeters, by chance, by timing, and by a decision she made in the woods to stand up when her body should not have been able to. Years later, Peyton said something that changed how many people viewed this case. She said she doesn't live in fear anymore. She said she accepted what happened. She said it shaped who she became, not because the act was justified, but because survival forced her to see the world differently. Morgan Geyser and Anissa Weier believed something that wasn't real, but the consequences were. Mental illness was part of this case. So was isolation. So was obsession. And none of those things announce themselves clearly. They grow quietly. This case is often reduced to one headline, one name, one internet myth. But the truth is more uncomfortable, because nothing about this story feels distant. It happened in daylight, in a quiet town, between children who knew each other. And that's why it still matters. Because when people say, "This could never happen here," this case proves that it already did. If you stayed until the end of this video, it means you weren't just watching for shock. You were listening. And that's exactly why Ghost Synergy 13 exists. This channel is dedicated to real true crime cases, disappearances, unsolved investigations, psychological breakdowns, and stories where the truth is more unsettling than fiction. We post true crime every single day, not to sensationalize it, not to exploit it, but to document it carefully, because these stories don't end when the video does. They stay with you. If this case made you uncomfortable, if it made you think, if it made you question how well we really understand the people around us, then take a moment to leave a like. It helps this story reach others who need to see it. And if you want more cases told with this level of care, calm, factual, and unflinching, subscribe to Ghost Synergy 13 and join the Synergy. This isn't a channel you binge and forget. It's a record, and tomorrow we'll be back with another real case that never should have happened, but did.